tonight is an award-winning poet, author, spoken word artist and musician straight out of Queanbeyan, New South Wales. His new album dropped at the start of the month. It's called Since Ali Died. Would you please give it up? Welcome, Omar Musa, everyone. Yes. Appropriate response. Thank you for being here, man.
Thanks.
Now, we're going to talk about interesting matters of national identity and racism, blah, 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 blah. But the important thing is, who emceed your 30th birthday?
Russell Crowe.
Russell goddamn Crowe!
Threw my 30th birthday party for me. It was completely bizarre.
What happened? He's like a fan of your work, right?
Yeah, like I woke up one day and on Twitter suddenly I had like 300 extra followers and all these mentions kind of, you know, making silly jokes about Gladiator and like The Insider and stuff. And then I realised that he'd been tweeting my poetry, and so we kind of had this weird exchange where he was trying to link me up with RZA from Wu-Tang Clan. And,
oh my Lord!
And he was like saying, "Hey, little bro," to RZA. There's this guy called Omar Musa who you should really listen to, and blah blah. But what was weird was that, well, it's already weird, but that Russell's profile picture was him as Robin Hood, like drawing a bow, and he's talking. Anyway, and so he kind of called me up this one day, like he'd asked for my number, and I kind of, I'd just arrived in the States and I was at this wedding rehearsal, and I was there in Central Park, like in this tux, kind of in the middle of summer, sweating my balls off. And then I get this call from an unknown number, and I'd only given it to one person, and so I was like, hello? And it's just this voice going, "G'day mate, it's Russell." And so he invited me to perform at this charity show that he does every year or every couple of years called the Indoor Garden Party. And he was really like talking it up, saying like, you know, we've thrown them all around the world, we've thrown them in London, you know, New York. And I'm going, oh yeah, mad, like, you know, I might get a free trip out of this. And he goes, this year we're doing it in Coffs Harbour.
The New York of Australia.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so, you know, if Queanbeyan is the Venice of the Southeast, then Coffs is the Florence of the Northeast, you know?
Sure, why not?
And so I realised that this show was going to be around the same time as my birthday, and so I sent probably one of the most bizarre messages I've ever sent anyone. I wrote Russell a message and said, hey, mate, it's going to be my 30th birthday on the 9th of January, and you're actually the only person I know in Coffs Harbour. Is there any way we could go out for a drink or something? Like, somewhere. And he writes back, and all he said was, "Don't worry, mate, you will be celebrated." And
okay, that's a threat. That's what that is.
I don't know. It was like, yeah, it kind of sounded like a threat, but also it was very charming. What a debonair, mysterious man.
That's insane.
And so anyway, like I get there and I was staying with him on his farm, and he threw me this 30th birthday party, and he'd designed a chocolate, like a chocolate cake that was a stack of books with different poets' names on it, and mine at the top, and then like a chocolate inkwell with a peacock feather, and he kind of goes to his chef, you know, is the cake ready? Is the cake ready? And she goes, yeah, it's ready. And he goes, all right. And the cake comes out with sparklers, and he's crouched next to the CD player, and he presses play, and it's like, dun, 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 dun. And he goes, everybody get up. And so everyone sang me Eye of the Tiger for my 30th birthday party.
How about that, everybody? Oh, my Lord. Well, I don't know how we're going to top that story, but there you go. Congrats on the new record. It's Since Ali Died. What did Muhammad Ali mean for you as a young person of colour growing up in Australia? How was he an example that you looked to?
He meant a lot. I tell this story a lot, but when I was growing up, there was this kid in my primary school, and every day he would mercilessly ridicule me for the colour of my skin, and he would always say that my skin was the same colour as shit. And eventually one day I went back to my parents and I was in tears, and I said that I wished I wasn't brown anymore. You know, I wish I was white like the other kids. And my parents sat me down, they told me, you know, you can't think like this, you've got to be proud of being, you know, of your skin colour, of being Muslim, even if other people ridicule you for it. But it didn't sink in. And then my dad started showing me these VHS tapes, you might still remember those, and of this handsome, charismatic black boxer from America, you know, and he was like driving a pink Cadillac and driving white America into a frenzy. And he was Muslim like us. And when he said he was the prettiest, I could identify straight away. It wasn't just some petty brag, you know. He was saying that black was beautiful in a world that told him it wasn't. And even though I wasn't black, I was inspired by that. And I realized I could be brave, I could be proud. And he was a circuit breaker for me, you know. At that moment, when I could have internalized that hatred, that racism, and carried that with me for the rest of my life, he broke the circuit. And I think that it's our responsibility as artists and people who are out there in the public to try and do that for other people and break the chain of retrograde, sort of stagnant thinking. You know?
Those themes come through on the record a lot. You're going to perform Assimilate for us, which is the lead single we've got lately, and obviously the topic of assimilation is a very hot one. What is wrong with that word? Some people object to the notion or the idea of people assimilating together to form the beautiful, messy soup of Australia together. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think when people are encouraging you to assimilate, they're trying to scrub you of all your nuance and identity and basically pat you on the head and tell you to shut the hell up, you know? And I feel like I was inspired by seeing, the song was inspired by seeing what happened to Yasmin Abdelmajid. And with the right wing in this country and conservatives always bleating and mooing about freedom of speech, but all our voices are not created equal in this country when it comes to freedom of speech. If you're of a certain background, if you're Muslim, if you're Aboriginal, then people will be baying for your blood if you suddenly step out of line with the dominant nationalistic thinking of this country.
There's a great line in here that we'll hear in a sec. They tell you go home even though it's your birthplace. It means they didn't think you were Aussie in the first place. Can't fool a man like me. Fuck respectability. Big balls, 5'10", dark skin. I swim through the mainstream like a shark fin. Now, just out of interest.
I'm actually 5'11".
Oh, you're 5'11".
Yeah. But the rhythm was better.
Yeah, that is better.
Oh, man. How big are my balls?
Yeah.
Let me just say,
I'm very much like Michael Parkinson.
They've got an equator. You know what I mean?